Good afternoon or morning or evening. Today I'm going to show a React application that I built really for the fun of it. Started building it last year towards the end of the year. And so it's built with React, and I'm going to show the application and show the different things that it can do. And also I will be showing some of the code. I have it open here in the screen, and also the application is over here on the right side. I built it with the idea of being mobile first, so during the presentation I will keep it in this smaller size here, although I can make it larger and the information will scale out, but I haven't spent as much time on that part of the application. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this React application and some of the things that I did and other things that I might want to do in the future. So as you can see here in the package.json file, there's all kinds of different components and packages that I use to build out all the different parts of this application. Things like Axios, Bootstrap, Material UI, React Chart.js, React Player, React Particles for some special animation effects, a sliding panel. There's actually two different sliding panels, a tag cloud, Toastify messages, the React TS Particles, React Video.js Player, styled components, as well as some other things. So there's a lot going on in here, and just wanted to have fun with React. And so let's take a look at the application. I'll explain some of the basics of what's going on here in this application. So basically at the top you have three options, and you can also hide this control panel, which once you do that, it displays some hidden controls that are behind there that deal with the fireworks. So I'll go ahead and just toggle these three and show you what happens. If I click on debug, I make a panel show up down here at the bottom of the screen. And I'll zoom in just for a moment so you can see basically what's in there. This is what it looks like here. There's just debugging information about what's going on in the application as you're using it. I found it helpful as I was building the application to be able to toggle this debug panel, and it also allows me to open up my admin panel and dashboard panel, as well as go back to the top of the page and throw a toast message on the screen. Again, just exercising different parts of these npm packages. And like, it tells you your global context, which I'll explain that, what the dark mode opacity is, set to by default. The children text color is 0000000. Fireworks is false, which is set that way because it's off. The glow text is off. Logging is true. If we were to look at the console, we would see there's different information being sent there. The admin panel is false, meaning we don't see it right now. And then we have a couple other settings here. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to put it back to 100% size. And so that's the debug panel. And like, if I click on toast, it displays a toast message up there at the top, and you can close it if you want. And then I used a couple different animation libraries in this React application. So let's go ahead and click on the glow. And so it highlights this Scott's React application, kind of like a neon sign. And I just thought that was fun working with animations. There's several different parts of animations in this application, which once I get further down this page, you'll see. And so then let's go ahead and show the fireworks, which is using a particles library. So once you toggle the fireworks, it allows you to change this slider value, which is setting the dark mode or text or opacity, or the text opacity. And so like normally when you go between light mode and dark mode, you just get to see one or the other, but I made it 10 different steps. So that's like full black, and then this would be white. And then if we wanted to kind of go in between, and also as you're doing this, the text on the screen changes. I made it dynamically change everything on the page all the way down through the other parts of the application. So there's a lot of things going on as you're moving the slider around, changing the color and opacity of different things. So let's go ahead and leave it all the way to the right, and then you don't see any fireworks yet, but I have that hidden behind this panel. So if I click this arrow here, then it shows my little secret controls back here. And so if I want to see the fireworks, I'll click play. And now you should see fireworks going off in the background. I've seen that on different websites and different versions of this. Fireworks and animations. And so that's how you show animations. Now if I scroll down through the page, you'll see that they're just in the background. They're like on a plane inside the background. And they just keep going off unaffected by what's in the front layer. And so if we go back to this screen, and then we can change the opacity, now you won't be able to see the fireworks quite as much. As it gets darker or the opacity is changing, then they're going to show through more and more as we slide to the right. And so this is using the TS Particles library, and I'll show that here for just one moment. Okay, so I pulled up the GitHub page for TS Particles, and so there's really infinite things you can do with this Particles library, and it's of course open source. As you can see, it's on GitHub. And so if I scroll down the page, you can see all these different links: React, jQuery resources, Angular resources, vanilla JavaScript resources, with all these different links. So you could spend an awful lot of time with this. And so then there's like templates you can use and various different parts of these configuration files if you dig through all this. Actually, further down on this application, there is another version of this TS Particles being used, but it really is almost limitless with all the different configurations that you can do with it. So if you're looking for a way to do some fun or cool animations, you may want to take a look at this library if you haven't seen it before. Well, I'll go ahead and scroll down to where the other animation is at. It's, let's see here. There it is. So let's go ahead and turn off the fireworks. And now you can see this is interactive. Like when I move my mouse over it, it's actually displaying like, well, it's kind of lighting up a texture that's behind it and using these like lines connecting everything together. And so I can stop it or start it. So that's like another version of using TS Particles. So I'm going to actually leave it in a darker mode, and then we'll continue on from there. So since we're talking about animations, I thought I'd scroll a little bit further down. This is basically one long scrolling page. I did it on purpose that way, just to kind of simplify some things. But everything is built as a component. I haven't really mentioned that yet, but I will show a little bit of that in the code, how everything is a component, and then I can trigger them or hide them and show them. That's what one of these panels will do here. But we'll take a look at that in a little bit. So here we have, this is just a red box I drew with some lines through it. And so if we want to stop it, like this one here, I drew blue lines around that one just to make it look a little different. So we can start it spinning again, and it starts faster, and then as you move the slider to the right, it gets slower and slower and slower. So I used another different type of animation library to do that. And I wanted to just do some more things with animations. And actually on my main website, scottdevops.com, there is the GreenSock library. There's some different kinds of animation being done there using the GreenSock library. If you haven't seen that before, you may want to look that up if you need really great animations. So I've scrolled back up to the top of the application, and let's scroll down a little bit. So there's YouTube. There's just a YouTube video here that I enabled or embedded into this application. And so you can click that and play it using a React player. And there's some hyperlinks so you can go to like wherever you want them to go to. Then the next part of the React application is a tag cloud. Now there's a lot of different things you can do with this tag cloud when you're displaying data. Like heat maps, I think about heat maps where things that are more important have a larger size on the screen. So this part of the React application is controlled by data that I preset. So like Cloud Tech and Scott DevOps and React, you can see some are bigger and some are smaller. And so that just means their importance is greater. And so there's several things going on with it, but it's using, more React components. And I also kind of made it into a game. I wrote about that up here. Play a game, you must find the tag that's named resort this. And then click on it or tap on it, and then my tag cloud will resort itself in real time. The larger the size of each tag means that on a daily or regular basis I work with that technology more than other tags or skills in my cloud. In my tag cloud. Also, you can tap on other tags to go to those websites. So some of them I started to link to other URLs. So let's click on React. Looks like it blocked it. I believe because there was nothing hooked up to it. So let's try another one here. So you can see here it said, nope, try again. You got to find the resort this tag. But let's say we wanted to learn about Chartbrew. So again, I hooked up some of these to other websites. So if I click on that, it's going to pop open a tab to Chartbrew, which I have a bunch of videos I made about using Chartbrew and Strappy, headless CMS, and things like that. So you can also link these tags to different information, which I thought was kind of cool. So now I'm looking for the resort this. So I can click on it, and that will force this to regenerate itself and change the size of resort this, which is part of the little game to play. Like how fast can you find it and click on it. there it is. Resort this. So there. And it tells you up here, good job, you found it. Now find it again and click on it. So anyway, it's just like a little game, and many different things going on, as I mentioned, with this tag cloud, and I can see using it for a lot of different purposes in applications. And so you can also export it. If I click on this, export it as a PDF. And then if we look down a little further here, benefits of using animations on a website. Animations enhance design. They grab attention, like neon lights in Las Vegas and other big cities. Animations showcase uniqueness of a website. They establish a better or stronger emotional connection. Animations can improve user engagement and conversion. Potentially, it has been said that about 97% of marketing budgets go to waste because only 3% of ad clicks convert. Improve the overall user experience. Stand out amongst peers. And I just said eyes to click statistics. So let's click on that. And you can read about different information about when people are using websites and who's staying around on the website, who's leaving and clicking on things, and like website retention rates and a lot of different things. So the button export Scott's tag cloud as PDF. I'm still working on that. Well, I was. And so it uses this technology, open source technology called JSPDF. And that's from GitHub. So it's a library to generate PDFs in JavaScript. Now I found it still needs some work in my application. And then there is the Material UI. Just referencing some data in the background that happened to be this website with pictures of people and fake information. So if I hit refresh, it will bring in a new picture. And the next thing is an NBA basketball data grid. So that's information, again, that comes from a public API that I found, and I just used that. And so here you can click through the different pages of data. You can also sort. You want to click on these and sort. And the next thing that I embedded here is talking QR codes. That's what I call them. So it's a carousel. It's also QR codes. So if you were to take a picture with your phone, that would take you somewhere. And so if you want to try that, I'll leave each one on here for a moment. And if I click on it in my web browser, which I'm not going to do, it actually plays an audio file and it explains what the QR codes are about. So I thought that was kind of fun, using media, multimedia, and QR codes. And so here, like, it looks like QR code 1 goes to my scottdevops.com portfolio. QR code 2 would take you to Scott's graphical project diagram. I think that's, an overall diagram of different projects that I've been working on. And 3, it takes you to my Scott DevOps YouTube channel, which you're already on if you're watching this. So then let's scroll down to the next part, which is a chart, a donut chart. And if you want to download it, you can click on download this chart and it'll pull it down to your local computer. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's click download this chart, and then we'll open it up. And so there's the chart. I just wanted to put a few like graphical elements in this React application. Again, using all of these different NPM packages. I believe that right there is chart.js. It's using that to make this chart. And then there's just some basic CSS content that I put in here, and some different links, and just experimenting with some things in the CSS code. And that's just another data card. Again, just some more CSS. So then I have a video carousel. And so it looks like the videos are really short videos, actually audio just saying what it's about.
Hey, check out our cool YouTube page, website, scottdevops.com.
So basically just using a video carousel in this React page. And I was going to click these links to trigger the videos. Didn't get that far with it. And here's another chart that I made. And you can download that if you want. It's just a sample or using sample data. And yeah, using that chart.js. And I showed this earlier in the video. This is using the TS particles that I showed. And you can start and stop it. And then I was talking about my spinning red boxes, which is using another animation library. I'm trying to look for it here. Let's see. I believe it was the React Spring library that is doing those animations. I'll be taking a look at some of the code and some of these components just to see more specifically how I did it. So I will be taking a look at some of the code a little later. But I do believe I use React Spring. It's another library or package. And so we'll be able to open up a few of these components and see how it was accomplished. And so if you didn't see that part, you can move the slider around and it speeds it up or stops it if it's 0. And just some basic stuff about the useRef hook. There's like all the emojis. If you haven't used those before, that's like the star here. So there's a web page that has thousands of them. And like if you wanted to close this, you could read it or toggle the color of it if you wanted to have different versions of the information or different colors of it. And then if you click the X, it will get rid of it. Now there's actually 2 of them, like information cards, so we'll toggle it back to the other color. I was just experimenting with different colors and layouts. And so if you click the X, it disappears, but if you refresh the page, it actually comes back. It just reloads itself. And so let's see here. The next part of it is toast messages. So if we click on this, you can see a toast message comes up down here at the bottom, and you can click on it to close it. And so I used a couple different toast libraries. You can see over here, one of them was React Toastify. And I'm trying to look for the other one here. I do believe I used two different NPM packages for that. And this is more animation. And it looks like I'm also using styled components in React, like the spinning red box above. So if you haven't used those, I did a little bit of styled components here in this application. And you'll see when I get a little further that all this stuff can be turned on or off with one mouse click, since these are all individual components that you can embed in any part of the application. I just put them all on one page to do the demo. So here again, we can control the speed of the spinning red box. And this shows that unlike the one that was above, there was two of them, now there's just one. And so I embedded one version of this at this point in the application by basically using one line of code. That's the nice thing about using React components. And then here we have just one information card, so you could read that, toggle the color, just like we saw before. It's just a component, and then close it. And so it looks like we're at the end of the application, except there are these other admin panels, which I'll go ahead and show those. And there's a scroll to top button, so we can do that. Takes us back up to the top, or we can scroll to the bottom. And now first let's open up the dashboard panel. And so I started to build a dashboard that you could control what you want on it and drag and drop things around. And it remembers like which configuration depending on what size the screen is. There's like 5 different breakpoints or media queries. So as you make the screen bigger, you can put more dashboard pieces on it. And then we have the admin panel. So this is where you can choose what you see on the screen here. Now I left main dashboard not configurable, but let's go ahead and we'll scroll back up and I'll make this a little bit bigger. And so let's just go back to the top. I guess we'll close this for a moment and go back to the top. And so now you'll notice, if you kind of see here the components that are showing, I can click on admin panel and then you'll see the video disappear behind it. So now you see that's gone. And so now we'll just see the tag cloud. And if you say, hey, I don't want to see the tag cloud in my screen, you can click that and now it's gone. And if you decide, hey, I want the video to be there and I don't want the material cards to show, so now it'll be video and then the NBA data grid. Those are the ones I want to see first. So there is the video and there's the data grid. And then let's say we don't want to see the talking QR codes. We want to see the donut chart. We don't want to see any of the centering 4 different ways. And we don't want to see, let's say, the video carousel and not the breathing exercise. So let's close that. So now we'll have the video, NBA grid, donut chart, line chart, nodes, info boxes, and toast. So now we can see the page is made up of just those parts that we said we wanted to see. So you're able to configure what you see on this application. So now let's change it around a little bit more. We'll hide toast, we'll hide the info boxes, we'll bring the video carousel back, we'll turn off the donut chart, put on the talking QR codes, and then take a look at that. So you can see there's the video carousel, the QR codes is back, the data grid, and the video. So that's basically the idea of using the React components together to hide and show them based on what you're selecting here in this admin panel. And I'm going to open up the code briefly and show the home page of the application and how it's just hiding and showing different components based on what you're doing here in this admin panel. So here is the app.js, and again I did this on purpose and left everything in the home page to be able to hide and show things like we just did, so you can see how it's importing all these different components: the info box, my site's QR codes, the debug panel you saw at the bottom of the page, animated nodes, we saw that, the line chart, the data grid. So there are all the components being imported here. And then I'm using the global context, which I can show that briefly. This is like the global context where I create a global provider and store all these information or pieces of information here, like at a global level. And as I mentioned here, these control the state for the visibility of the components on the home page. These are used by the admin panel component, as we were just looking at over here. It's really nice that React has this ability, so we can basically create this global place that all components have access to, and they have visibility of it, which makes it great when you want to communicate between different components. And so there's a lot in here, as you can see by the size of this. I'm not going to go through all of that code, but basically it's just a area in memory where all this information is stored, so you can access it no matter what component that you're in. And so now I'm back in the app.js, and this is where it's using getting the data from the global context to be used for feeding props into the components below. So that global context is being used as you're using the application to store information, and then I'm reading it into this page, and all the other pages, the other components, all share it. And so if I just scroll down a little bit here, so I'm using conditional rendering, a loading screen, which I'll go ahead and hit refresh. You can see that it's taking a little while, but that's because it's loading a lot of pages, and I actually put a delay in there also just so it could have the loading screen in case it actually took a little while. It's just kind of simulating a longer loading time. And so here we return the loading screen like we saw, and then this is where I'm using the optional rendering of the components. So you can see here, like if primary YouTube video was selected over in the admin panel. So if you say I want to see video 1, that's the primary YouTube video. If you say tag cloud, that's the primary tag cloud. If you say material cards, the first material card. Talking QR codes, that's the talking QR codes, and so forth. So it conditionally renders the component that you see here in between the parentheses. And there's a few things that are just rendered: the toast container, the admin panel, although they're invisible, but they are rendered when the application loads up. But most of this is all dynamically rendered, and it's controlled by toggling these values on and off, stored up in the global context. So that's a very high level of what's going on here with the admin panel and the dynamic or conditional rendering of the home page of the application. And then if you see in green, that's the name of the components: YouTube video, tag cloud animated, media card, data grid, my sites QR code, donut chart, centering 4 ways with props. So you can see all of the components. That we'll take a look at one of them, and also the props that I'm passing in, like the children text color, or if you want to make it glow. But you can see this text color that I'm passing in. As you change the parameter, the slider that I showed up here, it's passing that in as a prop to the individual pieces, so they all react in real time as you're sliding that slider around. So I'll open up one of the components here, and I'll right click and say go to definition, and that takes us to this component. So it's a pretty small file, and you can see that I'm importing React and component from React, and then I'm importing the React player. That's one of the npm packages, and Bootstrap, and a special YouTube video CSS file that I created. So inside this file, we can see a few things like the div style, setting the visibility based on the visibility state, and also setting the H1 style to the value of a prop that we're passing in, the text color. So that's like this header here, and so it's changing that based on when you're moving the slider around at the top of the screen. So just a simple way to keep the entire thing kind of reactive to what the user's doing. And then I'm using the React player, which is just a component that I mentioned in the package.json file. And so you point it at a YouTube video, and you can set some different properties. And so that's basically one of the components I wanted to show in the application. And I'll show one more of the components in this video, and then as soon as I have time, I'm going to make a follow-up video and go into some more details about some of these other components. So let's go to the tag cloud, and we can see we're passing in a prop called text color, and it's passing in the children text color, which is set by the slider here. So let's go ahead and open that up. And so here's what I was saying. It's based on some data that I passed in here and built, just sample data. And some of them have links that you can go to, and some of them don't. And so the data that's used to create the tag cloud, we can see up here the things that are being imported, like JS PDF for doing the export, and then the tag cloud from React Tag Cloud. And it looks like I'm reading my comment here. I have intention of reading this from the Strappy backend headless CMS. I just didn't have time last year to work on that when I was building this application. So here's the data for all the tags that you saw here. So if you compare what you see here, you'll see all of them over here. And so you can see a count and an ID, like to say how big to make it or how small to make it. And they all have like a reference ID. And those are actually different technologies that I've been working with over the years. And I just thought it was kind of a fun way, kind of like an interactive resume, if you will. And so looks like I built a custom renderer. And just looking at some of the other code here. Looks like here's where I'm checking. If you click on ID 100, that's the resort this. I still have a lot of the console logging from when I was building it in here. And then there's the actual HTML that you saw on the page. And you can see like here where I'm passing in a prop, several props, or using it in the H1 and the divs. And like on click, generate PDF, set the margin, and set the text color as you're using this slider up here. And so this is some of this information here. As we see, benefits of using animation on a website, that's what you see there. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about with this application at this point. Again, as I mentioned, I'm planning on making a follow-up video to talk about some of the other components in more detail. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I know I had fun building this last winter, and I plan on doing some more work on it in the future as I have time. And I appreciate you watching the video. I'll talk to you later. There's actually something that I forgot to show, so I'm adding this on to the end of the video. I have this dashboard panel. So let's go ahead and click a few things here, and I'll show you how it works and what's going on with it. So we'll just put a few of the smaller things in there for now. We'll do the donut chart. We'll do the video carousel, maybe the line chart. And let's see. Well, how about the YouTube video player? And then let's click show the dashboard. And so here is the dashboard that you created by choosing those options. And so what it says here is the movable panels in this section can be rearranged using drag and drop. So I will give it a try. You can also resize each panel at the bottom right corner. So you can grab it, start moving it around, resize it. Also, it uses a responsive layout. So as your browser size changes, these panels will automatically move around. And when viewed on a mobile device, the layout will change accordingly. Also, the system will save the sizes and the placement of these panels at all the main breakpoints for the responsive sizes of the browser. So if we scroll down now, we'll see it looks kind of jammed together. And so let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger, and I'll start moving some things around here.
Hey, check out my cool.
So I'm just resizing some things here. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and turn off the video carousel for now. And so here we have these three pieces of the dashboard that I chose. And if we make it smaller, you see how it resizes itself. And if we make it larger, it goes through different breakpoints. And now let's make this a little smaller. And we'll make this one a little smaller. And let's make this a little smaller. And we'll go ahead and move this over here. I guess we need to make it a little bit bigger. So let's try this. And we'll resize this just a little bit. And then we can move this over. And we'll make this a little bit bigger. So this was really the last thing that I started to add into the application. There's still a lot of work to do with it, but I thought it was kind of fun to make a drag and drop dashboard that's configurable by using this dashboard screen and hiding and showing the parts that you want to put on the page. So now let's say we wanted to add the NBA data grid. And so now that's there. Let's move it down below here. And let's make it larger. A little bit bigger. And now let's say we don't want the center chart here, the donut chart. And we want to turn that off. So let's open up the dashboard panel and let's turn off the donut chart. And then show it again. And you can see how it's snugged up. And just put the data grid up there below the other two charts. So again, just fun experimenting with React and with this drag and drop interface and resizable panels. And I use some different components to help achieve this, and I plan on doing more work on it again in the future when I have time. So I just thought I would show that. I like doing dashboard things and creating it from scratch using React components. I know there's a lot of different libraries and tools that you can pay for to get dashboard functionality, but doing it from ground nothing to building it yourself, it's a fun experiment. And so hopefully you enjoyed that, and again, we'll take a look at some more of the code in later videos, and thanks for your time.
If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.